to my channel. You're looking at a piece of art. We're going to do a couple of things with this piece of art. We're going to look at it and enjoy it and activate our visual cortex. The visual cortex is the part of the brain that interprets to the brain what you're actually seeing. Now, in activating the visual cortex, it also is a very healing process. It can recreate the neural pathways in your brain, which is very helpful for a lot of different ways, for a positive attitude, for relaxation, for enhancement of your life. So we're going to do that. We're actually doing it because I'm not moving the camera and you're just looking at the piece of art as I'm talking. The best way to do this, though, is to look at the piece of art, be quiet. I mean, you can do music or something in back of it, but be quiet and just let your eye float around on it and enjoy it. This is, of course, an abstract, and it has a lot of different textures to it, colors to it, layers to it. So it's kind of a fun piece to open up your visual cortex. Then we will lower our brain waves to alpha. And a lot of scientists say that your brain waves probably get lowered to alpha when you are activating your visual cortex. We're going to activate, well, we're going to go into alpha on purpose to make sure that we're there. So we're going to activate the visual cortex now, and I'm going to be quiet, and I'm only going to be quiet for about 30 seconds. But when you do this on your own, it's best to do it for about 10 minutes instead of 30 seconds. I just want you to get the feel of it, because this is something you can do whenever you feel like it. Once a day is wonderful. Once a week is great. Just take the 10 minutes. It's like a meditation. It clears your mind, and it's totally relaxing. So now I'm going to be quiet. So now we're going to lower our brain waves into alpha on purpose. It's very simple. 3 deep breaths, 3 deep cleansing breaths. As you're holding your fingers together, your thumb, the index finger, and the middle finger on both hands. And this will train your brain that when you do this with your hands, it will automatically go into alpha. Now, alpha is the most relaxed and creative brain state. So that's what we're going to do now. And at the end of the video, I'm also going to give you some other tips on the brain waves and the visual cortex. So stay tuned until the end. Okay, here we go. 3 deep breaths. Down, down, down. Now see how that makes your body feel. Because lowering our voices while we're saying down makes your body vibrate. And it relaxes you all over. It relaxes you physically and mentally. So now we're ready to go do a piece of art. So this is my absolute favorite part of doing these videos, is actually doing the painting. Makes sense, doesn't it? Since this is what I do. Okay, so we're using a note card, and here's the seam in it right down there. And I'm going to do front and back, and then I'm going to frame it in one of the acrylic frames. I'm, of course, in alpha. And here we go. just doing an abstract. And this is, let me see what they call this orange. It's just orange yellow iridescent is what this is. Adding iridescent gold to it. Now I'm going to add, they call this iridescent blue-green. Oops, it's turquoise. I just love these colors together. I think that they're so cheerful. It's almost like a sunrise or a sunset, but it's not real deep yet. So one of the things I really like doing is creating in my designs something that looks like motion. And you wouldn't have to do this on a note card, you know, you could use a larger piece of paper or canvas and do it as a wall piece. I'm going to add some silver. I need something up top. Now the whole thing doesn't have to have paint on it necessarily. I can leave some of the white. So now I'm going to use a bigger brush, for bigger brush strokes to pull this piece together. We'll see how it goes. And another thing that I do with the bigger paintings, when I'm working on them, I photograph them, or I take a photo at different stages as I'm working on them, and then I can look at it and see where I think things need to be adjusted and all of that stuff, or where it's calling for more paint. Now we're starting to get some depth too, with putting these bolder, thicker lines across the painting. Then this part of the painting recedes instead of all being flat, because all the colors were very similar in hue. And so when you have all of the colors a similar hue, then that tends to flatten them out. Little tips. So now I'm going back to a smaller brush. This brush is like, probably about 3/8 of an inch. And the bigger brush I was using was about 1 inch. But I'm going to add I'm adding some Payne's Gray into a couple of spots just to emphasize. And I'm using the side of my brush to do this. Just a soft line. So we'll put and as I'm doing this, I'm thinking about how it's going to look on both sides. Okay, so while I'm finishing this up and adding sparkles to it, I'm going to refresh you on the brain waves. The brain waves are gamma, the most alert of the brain waves, and then beta, which is kind of the anxiety, it can produce anxiety. I mean, it's the brain wave you're in when you go into any sort of anxiety. And then alpha, the most relaxed, most creative brain wave. That's what we work in because we're still cognizant in alpha. And then there's theta, which I consider the meditative state. And then delta, which is sleep, deep sleep. Okay, now I'm going to put this in a frame, show that to you. It's going to be folded in half and put it in a frame. And then as I'm doing that, we'll talk about some of the visual cortex attributes. So the art is folded, and I've got a plexiglass frame which you can get at a big box store online. The big box store. Let's see, let's move that. Okay, so this is one side of it. And then it flips over. And here's the other side. Or you could put it like that. Any number of ways you could put this to display it on a tabletop or a shelf, something like that. And I had some requests for doing a series of note cards to give you guys ideas and to show you more in depth how I do it and what I'm thinking about it. And also to give you some insights into the visual cortex, because it really is a fascinating thing. Using the visual cortex by studying a piece of art for a few minutes. Because the dog was scratching. Anyway, getting back to the visual cortex, because I think that this is a really important thing and fascinating. By studying a piece of art, it can reduce your stress. It acts as a form of meditation, helping you to lower stress levels, promote relaxation. It can also relieve anxiety. Okay, so I'm going to turn it over again. Now that's upside down from the way we had it before. And it's an interesting thing too that activating the visual cortex and studying a piece of art to do that, it can bring out self-awareness. It can give you insights into your own thought processes and feelings and experiences. So that's an interesting thing too. And remember that I have a new section on my website, a new drop down. It's YouTube art, that a lot of this art is for sale. Not every piece I've done in the last 16 months is there because a lot of those pieces are already sold. But anyway, check it out and see what you think. And this is it for me for today. And have an enjoyable life. Enjoy each and every day. Bye-bye for now.